If you have a rental property and you're trying to decide if you should do a long-term, short-term, or a midterm rental and you don't know which one to go with, I have personally tried all three, so I'll go through the pros and cons of each. So let's start out with a long-term rental, the most common one. This is where you rent out your home for a year or longer typically. This strategy is definitely the lowest maintenance and I would say probably the easiest option, but it probably cash flows the least, which definitely isn't a bad thing, just depends on what you're going for, but definitely the easiest to maintain and deal with. The second option, which is the short-term rental, is definitely the option that would probably bring you the most amount of money. This isn't always the case, obviously. It depends on things like your listing, your photos, how many reviews you have, what area you're in. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but if you have a good listing, it'll probably bring you the most amount of money. With that being said, it is by far the most amount of work. You have people checking in every few days. You're having to coordinate with your cleaner to go over all the time. Constant messages from guests and a bunch of other things. So it's just the most amount of work, which again isn't the worst thing, just depends on what you're going for. Which brings me to my personal favorite strategy, which is midterm. Basically, it's an Airbnb, but you put your listing at 30 days or longer. I have my listing on Airbnb in Furnished Finder, and my average guest stays for probably 3 months. I mean, I've had guests that have stayed for 6 months. We host a lot of traveling nurses, working professionals, people that are in the area for work, or if they're just working from home and they're just traveling here for a longer period of time. And as you probably have guessed, it's kind of in the middle of the two. It's not as much work as a short-term rental, but still more work than a long-term rental. And then the cash flow, again, is in between the two. Probably not as much as a short-term rental, but not as little as a long-term rental. Like I said, I have tried all three. I currently have 2 long-term rentals and 1 midterm rental. I have done 2 different short-term rentals in the past. Nothing wrong with it at all. It was probably just my least favorite option, but I'd probably do a short-term rental again if I could find a good deal in a city that allows short-term rentals. Dealing with city regulations and short-term rentals is not the funnest thing, so that's why I've strayed away from it. But midterms are nice because most cities allow 30-day plus rentals, so that's another reason why I've stuck with that one. Again, none of these options are necessarily good or bad. It just depends on your preference and what you're going for. So yeah, that's all that I can think of with those. If you have any questions, let me know. Peace.